What is happening, guys? My name is Adam, I am a Super Swan, and welcome to an FM18 experiment where we put PSG in the Premier League. If we look at the Premier League table, boom, there is PSG in 13th place. So the reason we're doing this experiment is that everyone seems to have a go at PSG. They seem to say to them, oh, because obviously they're winning every league title in France year upon year with all the money they have. So everyone says, oh, you're only winning the league because you're in the French league. You couldn't win the Premier League. You couldn't win La Liga. You couldn't win the Bundesliga. So this is going to be a little mini-series to show, can PSG win in other divisions? So we've put PSG in the English Premier League. Everything else is the same. So they've got the same manager, the same players, the setup's the same. They're still based in France. So everything is the same except for we've put them in the Premier League. And I think the story we're going to tell with this is that I think the PSG owners decided to buy themselves a place in the Premier League. So the team that we've had to sacrifice is Huddersfield Town. The reason I picked Huddersfield was because they had the lowest reputation in the league. So what they've done is they've bought Huddersfield's place in the Premier League, and therefore they've swapped places. So Huddersfield, as a kind of little side experiment, can they do well in Ligue 1? We will see probably at the end of the episode there. So what we're going to do, we're going to go in 3 different steps. We're going to go 1 year in the future, 2 years in the future, and 3 years in the future, just to see if they have managed to win that Premier League title. They might also be able to win some other trophies as well along the way, because if we look at their competitions, they are going to be in English competitions this season. They're going to be in the Champions League because they won the league in France. They're going to be in the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, and for some reason they're in the Trophée des Champions as well, but I'm sure that'll, sort itself out as we go forward. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to the end of the current season just to see where PSG have finished. So here we are, my friends, we're at the end of the 2018 season, and let's have a look and see how Paris Saint Germain got on in their first Premier League season. So we'll have a look at the competitions. You probably have already seen at the top there, but they finished in 3rd place in the leagues. They didn't win the league. They came 3rd place behind Arsenal, surprise winners, and Manchester United in 2nd place. So they were a good sort of, 14, 15 points from the top there. So they weren't close title challengers, but they did manage to get into the Champions League for next season. They qualified this season via their winning the league in France. They got to the quarterfinals, which were knocked out by Real Madrid, who eventually won it. So nothing to be ashamed of there. FA Cup, they went knocked out in the 5th round by Man City, who won the cup. Again, nothing to be ashamed of there. Knocked out the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup by by Liverpool, who won by Burnley, so fair play to Burnley. And for the first season, they still qualified for the French Cups, so that might be a reason why they haven't done so well this season. But they were knocked out by Stade Rennais in the French Cup, and they won the Trophée des Champions. So we're going to have a look and see if they've made any signings in the first window. They've signed Dries Mertens for 26.5 mil. So, he's a really good player, Dries Mertens. So a striker, winger, so, only the one signing though, but they have let quite a lot of players out on loan. They've sold Kevin Trapp to Zenit St. Petersburg for up to 13.5 mil, and they've gotten rid of Lassana Diarra as well. To be fair, I was surprised he was playing for PSG, to be honest with you. He was playing in the for Al Jazeera just a couple of years ago. So they've brought in a few signings, but they haven't cracked it in their first season. Not quite yet anyway. So what we're going to do, we're going to go on another 2 years now, just to see how they got on in the next 2 seasons. Obviously, then they'll get some more spending power. They won't have the French Cups to worry about either. So we'll have a look in 2 seasons' time and recap how PSG have gotten on. Can they crack the Premier League? We've arrived in the year 2020. We're 2 years in the future since the last time we recorded. So let's have a look at PSG. Let's see how they got on in their 2 seasons in the future. So we'll look at competitions. And as we've got 2 years to cover, we'll go by each competition individually. So in the Premier League, if we look at the stages, so the season before last, so just make sure, yep, that's it. So they came third the season before. They were 13 points off the top. So they still haven't managed to win a Premier League title. And you've got to remember, guys, I mean, in England, there are now 7 really strong teams, all fighting for for the league title and Champions League qualification. So 7 teams, all fighting for a top 4 place. And to be fair to PSG, they've been top 4 every year, but they just haven't won the title. And then last season, possibly the closest they've been 5 points away from the title. But again, still Champions League qualification. So we'll have a look at Champions League. So in the latest year, they were knocked out in the group stage. So we'll definitely have a look at that. We'll have a look at last season first. So we'll check the group stage. So they would have made the group stage last year. So PSG, where are we looking? There we are. Look, Group G. So in Juventus, Olympique Lyon and Sporting. So obviously now they represent England. So they are going to be facing French teams as well. But they did get out the group in second place with Juventus. So who did they get in the first knockout round? They managed to get... they were knocked out by Real Madrid in the first knockout round. So they went out 5-4 in aggregate. So they must have won the first leg 3-1 at the Bernabeu. And then they just completely collapsed at home. They lost 4-0. And that'll be why Real Madrid went through. Scenes of... was it Barcelona PSG? With a couple, I think it was last year, where they got knocked out at home. But scenes of that anyway. But we'll have a look at this season. So we know they got knocked out in the group stage. So who did they get in the group stage? So if we scroll... look, Group A at the top. So they had Barca, Borussia Mönchengladbach, PSG and Zenit. They had the same points as Borussia Mönchengladbach. I am saying that wrong so many times. And they had the exact same record as well. And they had the same goal difference. So either goals scored or head-to-head was chosen. So they went into the Europa League this season, which they were knocked out by Lazio in the second knockout round. So who did they get in the first knockout round? Because they would have dropped into the first knockout round. They had Apoel of Cyprus. They have them 7-1 in that round. And then we had Lazio, which they lost on away goals. So again, they lost 2-0 at home to knock themselves out of European football. So Europe's not been kind to PSG whilst this experiment's been ongoing. But the FA Cup, we'll take a look at that. So they were knocked out this year in the 5th round by Burnley. So we'll just confirm that if we look at the stages. So if we go back to the 5th round, let's have a look. PSG, there they are. So they did get knocked out by Burnley. So how did they get on the season before? So they beat Tottenham in the 5th round in a replay. So they beat Liverpool in the 6th round. They beat Man United in the semi-finals. And they won the FA Cup on penalties. So they have won a trophy whilst in England. They won on a penalty shootout. 1-1. Rybo got the goal and Lozano equalised for Arsenal. And then PSG won in the shootout. So they have won a trophy, the FA Cup. So the Carabao Cup, they were knocked out in the quarter-final by Arsenal. So we'll have a look at that. Just to confirm, there we are. But if we look at last season, how did they get on? So they didn't make the final. They didn't get to the semis. They didn't get to the quarters. Did they get to the... yeah, so there we are, the 4th round. They were knocked out by Arsenal in the 4th round of the Carabao Cup. So they did get knocked out by a finalist. And then the only trophy we haven't seen is the Community Shield, where they won the Community Shield. So that would have been from winning the FA Cup the season before. So that's 1.5 trophies, if you want to call the Community Shield a trophy. How much did they win by? They won 1-0. They beat Man United. Arthur with the goal. FM18, wonder kid, legend. Everyone seems to sign him. So they have won 1.5 trophies. Let's have a look though. They still got the same people in charge. So Unai Emery's still in charge of PSG. We'll have a look at the transfers. We'll see who they've signed. So in the first season they spent £263 million. Well, to be fair, 160 of that is Kylian Mbappe. So really they spent £100 million. They signed Simone Scouffet, who's a goalkeeper. So he didn't really get much games, did he? No, he was playing in the under-23, so more of a backup goalkeeper. Jose Callahan, I think they've signed on a permanent deal. He's been on loan with PSG, so I think they've signed him permanently. Arthur, we've talked about before. He's a FM18 wonder kid. Always seems to do very well. All the big teams are always after him. Ricardo Pereira, so they signed him from Porto. So he's a right back and also play right wing. So I'm guessing he would have been a rotation option, although he played mostly every game last season. And then Nicola Muru from Sampdoria, and he would have been, well, he's gone to Atlanta now. So did they just sign him, but did they just sell him straight away? So they signed him from Sampdoria. So that would have been in January. So, oh right, of course, because we're in the season before. That makes sense. So the outgoings, they sell Meunier to Red Bull Leipzig. Hesse Rodriguez has gone to Celtic. So it's a decent sign for Celtic. Jean-Christophe Babek's gone to Celtic as well. All the rest are pretty much loans. And then a random Yuri going to Fiorentina. So the next year, so this is where they were closest to winning the league, are £250 million. So they're trying to buy the Premier League, and it's not going the best so far. So they signed David Calabria. He's a right back, played a lot of games last year. Andrei Yarmolenko from Dortmund for £53 million. Right winger, only played 14 games though last season. They spent £53 million on him. Unai Nunes, he's a centre-back. They've put him on the transfer list. So they've spent how much on him? 26.5. He's immediately on the transfer list by the end of the season. Lorenzo Insigne for Napoli. I think everybody knows about him. A very good left winger. Signed from Napoli. They've signed Davy Proper from Brighton for 21 mil. A Dutch centre midfield / attacking midfielder. Only 19 games played. Andrew Robertson, a Liverpool left back. Brilliant left back in real life. He's got an amazing work rate. Should have 20 for work rate, really. But a good left back option. Did he play much last season? Yeah, he was pretty much their starting left back. Gabriel Paulista. They signed him from Valencia, I believe. Yeah, for 21.5 mil. Only played 9 games. Jack Wilshere's gone to PSG, so this might be to get the English contingent up, because remember, you got to get the English Premier League registration rules and Champions League as well. So they have to get a certain amount of homegrown players. So they might have signed him just to get the homegrown players up, because he played 20 games, it's not too bad. And Ogzhan Ozakuyup, who've never heard of, Turkish defensive midfielder, played 16 games for them. And then as far as the outs, Dani Alves left on a free. He's got to be getting up there in age by now. Julian Draxler's gone out. Kazawa's gone out. Muru's gone out. Let's have a Diaby, Nakunku. And that's pretty much it so far. So 3 years into the experiment, and they've only won an FA Cup and a Community Shield. So we're going to go another 3 years now in the future. It's going to be the last jump for this experiment. Can they win the Premier League in the next 3 years? We will find out, and I will see you in 3 seasons' time. We have skipped 3 years in the future. It's the year 2023, the last skip for this episode. And this is going to be, so have PSG won the Premier League in the last 3 seasons? So they came 4th of the season just gone, and they got Jose Mourinho in charge now. Can the special one bring glory to PSG? So immediately we can see they've won the FA Cups. That's 2 FA Cups they've won. But as we did on the last skip, we're going to go through each sort of competition at a time. So we'll go back. So we left off where they nearly won the league by 5 points there. So the year after that, they came 5th place. So they were outside of the Champions League places. So we'll have to check the Europa League as well to see if they managed to win that. But look at that. So they came 5th place. Man United with 103 points. So they were a good sort of 27 points off the pace for the league title. So they've gone from being 5 points off to about 27 points off. And they came outside of the Champions League places. The season after, oh my word, they came 2nd place. They missed the title by a point. And if you look at the top 5 places, all of them were within 3 points of each other. So Arsenal must be very gutted. that they've missed out on a Champions League place, because they were so close. They were 3 points off the top. But that year must have been super competitive. But they did manage to get second place on 75 points. They've been a point away from the Premier League title, but still haven't won it. Spurs won the title that year. And in the latest season, they came fourth again, where they were 19 points off Manchester City. So that answers the question, can PSG win a Premier League title? In 6 seasons? No, they can't. Not in this experiment anyway. So that shows that maybe Ligue 1 is quite an easy league to win, to be honest with you. So, because PSG clearly haven't managed to win the league in that time. But we'll have a look at the Champions League. So we'll see how they got on. So we look at the group stage to begin with, because they would have made the group stages in 2 of the 3 seasons. So we'll go to the group stage, or groups. We'll start in the 2021 season. So they did get out the group. There we are. So Bayern were top, PSG second, Kiev and Sparta Prague third and fourth. They got to the first knockout round, where they went out to Real Madrid again. Real Madrid are the bane of PSG's existence at the moment in the Champions League. Just knocked them out 7-1 on aggregate. It wasn't even close. So they were knocked out that year. So obviously we know that they came in the Europa League positions the year after. So we're not going to see them in this Champions League competition. But we'll have a look at the latest season, see how they got on there. So once again, Bayern Munich in the same group as PSG comes second once again. Bordeaux and Anderlecht making up the third, the fourth teams. Who do they get in the group stages? So they got Monaco. Oh, so an old rivalry reignited. And they did beat them to go through to the second round, the quarterfinals. But Real Madrid knocked them out again. So they just cannot get past Real Madrid in the Champions League. They are the constant roadblock for PSG. So they haven't managed to win a Champions League over the course of this the experiment. But we'll have a look and see if they've won the Europa Leagues. There was one year that they were in it, which would have been the year before. So it would have been this one, I believe. So we'll check the group stage. We'll work our way up. So PSG, where are they? There they are. So Group F, they did top their group. Maximum points. Anderlecht were in there again, who were with the Champions League. So we'll go to the first knockout round, who they faced Real San Sebastian, which I believe is Real Sociedad. They won 6-1 on aggregate. Very straightforward. So the second knockout round, they had Inter Milan, which they won 4-1 on aggregate. So they seem to be doing very well. They reached the quarterfinals. They had Chelsea, so a domestic tie, and they beat them 2-1 on aggregate with a 2-0 away win, getting them through. So they make the semi-finals, and they lost to Napoli in the semi-finals. So they almost won the Europa League. I say almost. They got to the Final Four, where Napoli did eventually win it. They went out to the winners of the Europa League. So no European trophies for PSG. But we'll check the FA Cup. So they did win it last year. And if we look at the past winners, they didn't win it the year before or the year before that. So we'll have a look at the stages. So we know they won it last season. They beat, well, the season's just gone. They beat Man City 2-1 in the final. But if we look at the year before, we'll work our way backwards. So there we are. They got to the semi-finals. They got knocked out 2-1 by Man United at Wembley. So it wasn't to be a final in that year. And if we go back to the year before that, where West Brom beat Villa. So an old, is that a West Country derby? I don't know. It's certainly a derby. But they didn't make the semi-finals. Did they make the quarters? No, they didn't make the quarters. Did they make the fifth round? It doesn't appear so. So they must have got knocked out fairly early. There we go, right at the top. 3-2 to Stoke at home. So they only got as far as the fifth round. But they have won 2 FA Cups in this experiment. And if we look at the Carabao Cup, They haven't won it, the past winners we can see there. But we'll go through the stages just to see where they came. So did they get any far? Nope, they didn't make the semi-finals. They didn't make the quarter-finals. So we're knocked out in the 4th round by Arsenal in the season just gone. They were knocked out in the 4th round by Chelsea the year before. And they were knocked out in the 4th round again. So the 4th round seems to be the stumbling block for PSG when it comes to the Carabao Cup. So that is pretty much it, my friends. So within the 6 years that PSG have been in the English Premier Division, they have not won any league titles, 2 FA Cups, and a Community Shield. So I think the question as asked is, can PSG win in England? The answer is no, they cannot. They can win some domestic trophies, but they cannot win the big one. They cannot win the Premier League. So that's going to be it for PSG, my friends. But we'll have a quick look at Huddersfield just to see how they've been getting on. So we'll only look at the leagues. I think that's going to be probably the most important thing. So we'll bring up the league just to see how they did get on. So we want to go to league table. Stages, league table. Okay, so we'll go back year by year. In fact, we'll start the season we started. So Huddersfield came 7th in the first year. They came 11th, 10th, 15th, 10th, and 4th. Ooh, that's interesting. So they haven't qualified for European competition. But Huddersfield Town, a team with the lowest reputation in the English Premier League, finished as high as 4th in the French Ligue 1, and in their first season were a mid-table team. They were 14th, so lower mid-table. So that shows the strength of the Ligue 1 and the Premier League. So that is going to be it, my friends. Let me just get the old PSG page up there. So even Jose Mourinho couldn't make PSG win the league. So there we go, guys. That is the FM18 PSG experiment for the English Premier Division. I am going to be releasing some other leagues for where can PSG win maybe La Liga? Can they win Serie A? There might be some others coming up as well. But as far as this particular experiment goes, that is the end. So just to round it all up, can PSG win the English Premier League? No, they can't. Leave a thumbs up, guys, if you enjoyed the experiment. Subscribe for more FM18 content, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.